I'm Doug Smith, and this is the 31 August 2012 edition of Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. Welcome. My special guest today is Dave Kehew, the director of the Portsmouth Public Works Department. Welcome, Dave.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
First, let's go to the get a quick update, if you wouldn't mind, on the road repairs, and then I'd like to talk about the mosquito issue, which is the one in everybody's mind.
Sure. The microsurfacing that was completed for Sandy Point Avenue, Wapping Road, and Indian Avenue. The crosswalk that was done yesterday, and that's on Sandy Point Avenue, part of the Green Trail. And very important, and I've heard from residents, is the line striping. And that will be scheduled for, it'll be Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, weather permitting. And so all the line striping will be done. And, you know, hopefully it won't be, you know, during the day. It's done at night to, you know, avoid traffic.
Now, will that pretty much finish off that section then? Or?
That's phase one.
Okay.
And then we're going to move right into phase two, which is the reclamation. You know, it's a full depth reclamation. The roads that are in very serious
really bad
condition.
shape, and you have to redo them totally.
Right, and that's going to start. We're again very aggressive, and that'll be Tuesday. We're going to start right on Leaps Road, and you know, anybody interested can go to the web and find out just what roads we're doing and what phase we're at, and that's portsmouthri.com. So you know, that is aggressive scheduled, and we're looking for that part to be done by the 14th, and then we'll follow right into phase three, which will be the mill and overlay, which is still very important. And you know, we haven't quite targeted and done all the logistics on that. But phase one's done. Phase two's will we start at Tuesday, and then we'll have an update for phase three.
How many phases are there, just out of curiosity?
There'll actually be like 4 phases, because after the mill and overlay is done, you know, there's little particulars. We have lumen seed for the sides of the road. That's part of Public Works. We take care of that. Additionally, there'll be a line striping just for Middle Road, and then we have crack sealing,
okay.
Which will be.
And these phases are for each section that you start to do?
Correct. Yeah.
So if people in the north end want to know what time or when you're planned to start working in their area, they could go on the town website.
That's
and look at the schedule.
That will be the best source for keeping up to speed. And anybody can always, you know, call Public Works at 683-0362. If they don't have access to the computer, and we're happy to talk to our residents.
Yeah, okay, great. You guys are doing great work down there. I was down by the roads the other day. They look really nice. Let's go to the mosquito issue, for which I think you guys deserve kudos, because we're the only town in the state that's been given permission to do this. And as I recall from testimony at the town council meeting the other night, since the mid-90s. So I applaud your efforts at getting this going. Since you've done this, you did this, I believe, on Thursday. Have there been testing done for mosquito larvae and other stuff? And
absolutely. You know, the results from the spraying were very good. We've got you know, again, people I asked in, you know, different areas to, you know, please call the office or email, and I went out to the sites physically, you know, a couple of times: Island Park, Common Fence Point, Viking Valhalla, and Norseman. And the mosquito reduction, it worked. And you know, so it was very positive feedback. I had no negative complaints. One, actually I shouldn't say none. There was one at the bottom of Walnut Street, which is in Island Park, and that abuts the marsh. So that spraying is an adulticide, and all it any adult that comes into contact with it for that night, you know, then that's the kill. And after that, though, it photodegrades very quickly in sunlight.
So if there were larvae, they would continue to grow. And
the larvae, yeah, and all the mosquitoes, you know, in the marshes, they're still there. Yeah. And you know, so that's a knockdown, and it worked.
Yeah. Anecdotally, I've heard from several friends that live in the area, and it's much improved. So I'm sure they would thank you as well. Yeah. What about things like Triple E and West Nile virus? I mean, those are the real concerns here. Have we found any of that at all in Portsmouth or even the surrounding towns?
Surrounding towns, they did find, you know, they have Triple E twice now. The closest community would be Tiverton, and they set an extra trap out there. And it's not unanticipated. Every year they do find Triple E, and every year they do find West Nile for the well, since 2000. And you so it's anticipated that they will find that, but it's not in, strong numbers, which, we're really thankful for. And, that's an important aspect. People see, of course, the first pool in Tiverton showed up Triple E, and that was a bird-biting mosquito, so really no concern. Now the Triple E has shown up in Tiverton, and that is bird and
So
mammals.
these are different strains of Triple E.
Right, but they need strong numbers. Of 120 sample pools. They have typically 40 traps throughout Rhode Island, and each week those mosquitoes are monitored and sent to the lab for analysis. So we have very good information as to where West Nile, Triple E is, and mosquito counts.
So we have these traps in Portsmouth somewhere, and
we do have a trap in Portsmouth, and it is on the north end.
Okay.
And they're smart guys, so they put the trap not in where we did the kill zone, because you're not going to get real data. So there is a trap in the north end, and that way they have a baseline, and they're able to measure that.
DEM is the one that's monitoring this?
DEM has monitored that. Dr. Al Getman and his team, we got to give them a lot of credit. He was out there yesterday, and we know that we have a full moon coming up tonight, blue moon, in fact, right? And so the concern is, for the salt marshes where the depressions have left behind, and the high tide comes in, hits those, and in a week and a half, that's all it takes. You get adult mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And but we have. I was talking with I talk with Al quite a bit, Dr. Getman, and I spoke with him this morning, in fact, and he was out there yesterday, walking the marshes with his crew. And he said that the counts were very low, visual counts on dipper counts. So we're hoping that we don't have, that's what we really hope for, but we don't have to get into spraying and doing that type of thing.
But you guys still, even though they're salt marshes, you still treat those in some way, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. In fact, our pest control vendor is out here today treating those areas, and we've always done this. I mean, this is something that we've always done. And they know full right well that the moon tide and that potential is there, so they're out treating the marshes today, which is the best thing that you could possibly, proactive thing, which we've always done. Having said that, it doesn't mean that we had that serious outbreak and something additional needed to be done.
Yeah.
Had we not done all this proactive stuff on a yearly basis, the state would have said, you're not even doing steps 1, 2, and 3. So.
What do you think has made the mosquito population so severe this year? I know a lot of people have taken pains to make sure they have no standing water, but still, for a while, we were getting eaten alive when you walked out in their backyard in the evening. What do you think it made it so bad this year?
Well, the mild winter that we had, the adult mosquitoes and larvae can winter over, so they don't die. And so what happens is in the springtime, May, you start getting mosquitoes. So you're not just breeding the new mosquitoes, you have that population that's
so they sort of stick around, over. Hibernate or something?
That's exactly what happens. Yeah. And, so that, is a factor. It's not, definitive that just because you have a mild winter means you're going to have a horrible mosquito year. In the catch basins, not so much for us around here, but there are, nearby communities, that with treatment, the same thing. They'll live in these basins that don't get flushed, and if they're not treated, they also contribute to the adult mosquito.
I remember when I was a kid, they used to spray for mosquitoes from the sky. I remember airplanes or even trucks going by. Yeah. And we'd be out playing baseball, and the stuff would just come down like a mist, and they did it every year, and nobody thought anything more of it. Why don't we do that anymore? Is that an environmental issue, or
it's education, and the state takes it very seriously because they know that spraying is just for the adults. That's it, and the lifespan of the adult mosquito 3 weeks, 4 weeks sometimes. So it's an awful lot to go through. It does have an adverse impact, to some degree to the environment. And, for that spraying that just kept going on, they found out that, there were environmental impacts to that. And, it's a benefit decision. You know, what are you going to do, and why do you need to do it?
Yeah.
And you know, so was the reason you know, for that. Now, the chemical that we use, the Advil 10+10, that's considered about the safest for the environment. I went out on the when it was spraying, got out of the truck, and you know, stood off to the side, obviously. But you know, watched the mist itself, and you know, we were perfect that night with
yeah, it was very
drift. You know,
weather cooperated.
And you know, the talk about it getting into you know, in the product label, it's, you know, you're not supposed to spray over a marsh. You know, that means if you're in the roadway, you're not spraying over the marsh. Right. So the very minuscule amount that could ever make it to there. And, you know, Dr. Al Getman was good enough. He was right out there the next day, did a 2-hour inspection, and reported back 0 collateral damage visually that he could see, no fish, and that was anticipated.
Now what do you think was the convincing factor in getting DEM approval on this? Because I know it took you several weeks of
It took a lot of hours, and you know, when the state hasn't done something since the mid-90s, it's new, it's breaking ground. You know, so you know, there's a lot to it, kind of complex, and you know, the good thing is that you know, the relationship I have, and Ken Ayers, for you know, Chief of Agriculture, State of Rhode Island, excellent individuals, both of those guys. They were very helpful. They educated. You know, and obviously that's one of the things I do. I obviously have, you know, many things that I'm responsible for. So I'm not an expert in any manner.
You sound like one. You sound.
Well, you have to become educated, and you know, and I'm educated by the best, and those guys were very helpful. They were there for us. And,
okay, so the concerns of the people in Island Park and Common Fence Point then were listened to and must have played a part in.
When we have that number of phone calls, and you know, and I follow up on site and verify that for myself, and then we have the monitoring data from our pest control vendor, you know, the science and the math. It's always science and math when you come into Public Works, and you know, that with the information we had and being, you know, so proactive, you know, from the beginning, knowing that you know, these are very tough areas to control, that allowed us to work with Dr. Getman and Mr. Ayers, and come up with a plan suitable, and so now we have that in place. That does not equate to that next time we have an outbreak that they're going to say, go ahead and spray. And you can see the monitoring. Dr. Getman was out there just yesterday, you know, looking at everything. So they'll have firsthand knowledge of what we really have out there. And we are prepared, and I'm prepared to add additional neighborhoods. Not all the neighborhoods I'm sure that people would like, but if we have another serious outbreak, you know, I'm doing some of the logistics on that right now, mileage and stuff, and the costs, you know, is always a factor in what you're going to do. So I'm detailing that out now, so we'll be ready to go.
Who pays for this? How is this spraying and those kind of extra things that you do are paid for?
They're not budgeted. They're not in the budget, and Mr. Klimm, you know, recognizes that, and you know, just like with everything else, when you have an emergency, you have something you know, that high of a public nuisance, it has to be addressed. You just can't ignore it. And so what we'll end up doing is we'll be taking the funds for that from one portion of a budget and covering it from that. That's what has to be done.
Now, so any future spraying that you'd be doing this year would be contingent on what they're finding down there on their routine thing?
It's contingent upon you know, just all the we talked about what we're doing right now, proactive. We are treating, so that's in place. We're set up now for a mosquito hotline, and the residents know to call, they know to email, and then I would verify, you know, for myself, walk the neighborhoods and you know, to see if it reaches that level. And if it does reach that level, then I'm sure DEM will listen. If it doesn't reach that level, you know, DEM will say no.
Okay, Dave, I think we're just about out of time, but I want to thank you again for coming on and explaining this. And actually, to me, you are a mosquito expert.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to communicate.
Welcome back. My second guest today is Bill Clark, who is the Portsmouth's Director of Business Development, a very important position in town. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Doug.
Let me talk to you first about the position of Director of Business Development. When and how was this position created?
The position was thought of back in the early, about 2001, I believe, by the Portsmouth Economic Development Committee. And they had outlined several things that they thought were needed by the town to foster and hopefully attract some additional business and add to the valuable business tax base we have. So they've made a proposal to the town council, was accepted, and this position as a part-time position was created. I'm not a town employee, but I'm under contract, and they've seen fit to renew it for the last 10 years. So the EDC proposed that there would be an outreach, an advocate, and a contact and service point within the town hall for anybody that is currently in business, doing business in town, or is thinking about business in town, or just simply asking questions, how does something take place in town?
Okay, now, do you still have some kind of a relationship with the EDC?
The committee itself?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
The Portsmouth EDC,
yes, the Portsmouth EDC. As people know, that's an all-volunteer committee that meets every month, and I usually attend on most of their meetings. And in fact, it's the EDC that formulates a proposal to have the contract renewed each year and goes to the council and says, look, we see value in this. We see that the business community is appreciating it, and it's a need that the town and a service that the town should have. And the council has seen fit to continue to support it and support the business community.
Yeah, now, I guess, do you feel like you've been successful here in the last 10 years or so? I mean,
I think I feel I am, and I feel the position is something that is valued and appreciated by the business community, and you hear that from time to time. I think too often we hear people say, gee, we couldn't get this done or couldn't get that done, and I just recently, within the past week, talked to one of the new businesses that opened in town, and it was a pleasure to hear him say, hey, things went really smooth with the building department, with the fire department inspections, and the people that he turned to, he knew who to talk to and what to expect as he was going through the permitting process. So it's always good to hear a good win story. And if people have a problem, then we certainly want to hear about that, and the staff is ready and willing to address it, see if we can correct it and make it easier for a business to operate here in town.
I believe you're also on the board of the Portsmouth Business Association too, so that gives you a connection directly with local companies and things.
Yes.
Okay, we're trying to attract and promote new businesses. We'd like to find certain kinds that we think would fit. I say generally the people in Portsmouth. Give me some reasons why somebody would want to locate a business in Portsmouth.
Well, I think there are some definite advantages to being located in Portsmouth. I think one of the primary things is our location. We're on the northern end of the island. We've got great accessibility to other parts of New England, upstate, into Massachusetts, to the Boston sector. We're right at the terminus of Route 24. That's easily access to the northern parts of the state and New England. And as such, we're in an area that isn't quite as congested as some of the other parts of the island. So I think there's some benefits there. As I said, we're closer to other activities. And I think also there's a synergy of being located in Portsmouth that relates to the existing defense industry we have in town, Raytheon and some of the other subcontractors, and also the closeness of all our activity to the marine industry. Now, of course, everybody knows we're bounded on both sides by water. We've got active waterfront on both sides, marinas, boat builders, boat subcontractors, and everybody that supports the business industry. So there's that aspect that there's a good reason why someone would want to locate their business here in Portsmouth.
Yeah, I can also think of a lot of reasons why people would want to locate their homes, why they would want to come to live here, like employees.
And I think that contributes also, that the character of the town, our school system, the vistas that we appreciate and want to continue to protect. So I think certainly our location and the character of the town all adds to a reason why somebody might want to locate here. Sure. And you hear that from time to time, that a business oftentimes ends up being located someplace where either the CEO or a couple of the principals in the business said, hey, I live in this area, I want it convenient, I appreciate it, and I think there's a benefit in being located here.
Yeah. Okay, so say you're a business, you're looking at Portsmouth, yet there are a lot of advantages which you've talked about. What are some of the concerns you might have coming into Portsmouth and actually doing business? How do you find out, for example, what to do?
Well, as I said, my office was created as a touchstone, a resource, a place where people can come to and ask some questions. Don't have all the answers probably for the questions that come up, but we're readily accessible to all the other staff positions, the building inspector, the town planner, the planning board administrative secretary, and then also our connections with upstate state agencies for a new business that's looking maybe for some additional funding, looking for training resources. The event we had scheduled about a week ago as far as a community business forum. We were having several speakers from the Small Business Administration, as I say, from Department of Labor and Training, the Rhode Island Economic Development Corporation, and all the staff that we can bring to bear for questions that might be supportive of a business that's trying to locate here.
Well, I know that kind of turned into, and maybe rightfully so, because I think there's a direct connection between putting tolls on the Sakana River Bridge and our businesses here in Portsmouth. It became a venue for a lot of protests against the tolls, which I can certainly understand. One of the downsides, I would think, is you're on an island and 2 of the 3 bridges are going to be tolled. So that's an issue. But will will the actual business part of this colloquium, or whatever you want to call it, be rescheduled?
Very definitely. We could tell early on in that event last week that the focus and all the emotion that day was with the tolls.
Yeah.
And I give the governor
Absolutely.
and his staff the credit for staying there for 2¼ hours, taking all the questions. I think a few things were cleared up, but yes, the tolls is definitely an issue and of concern to the business community. And the business forum section of that is going to be rescheduled, probably sometime in earlier to the middle of October. I've been in contact with the Rhode Island Economic Development Corporation, and we're just working out on some dates right now.
One of the things that might have come up in this business forum that you were going to have was the issue of the enterprise zones. Can you? The enterprise zones are sort of one way that people can. There is an advantage actually coming into Portsmouth. Can you explain that briefly?
Yes,
I know it's very complex.
A portion of Portsmouth is one of the state designated enterprise zones, and these are areas designated by the state where they're looking to foster and support business expansion and business growth. We were fortunate to have a cluster of defense industry here and marine industry that is probably the basis for saying these are sectors that we already have in the state. We're interested in keeping them here. We want them to grow. So that was the basis for having the enterprise zone designation for the town of Portsmouth. And the 2 key things that are available to a business either starting to locate here or growing here is there can be some state income tax credits available for adding new positions, full-time positions, Rhode Island residents only. And also there's some tax benefits for a company that would build a new building or make a significant improvement to an existing facility.
Okay, so both of those would be incentives for somebody to come in and establish.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a couple of the key. That's an attraction for another reason for being here. As I said, our location is key. And I think another thing that sometimes isn't promoted an awful lot or explained is that Portsmouth has historically had among the lowest taxes per $1,000 evaluation here in the state, and especially in our county here. And the other item that our business can take benefit of is that we have only 1 tax rate for all classes of business in town. So that I know some communities have a lower tax rate for residences, and they penalize the businesses by having a higher tax rate for them. But we have just the 1 flat tax rate here, and I think that's something that the businesses can appreciate. As you said, we have the enterprise zone, and we've also got in place in our zoning ordinances planned unit developments. This is a way that a business, especially something of size, say of over 2 or 3 acres, can come in and have a much easier path to getting their final approvals. In those cases, they're only dealing with 1 board, just the planning board. And there's great flexibility built in so that we can have a say in what the place is going to look like, and there's some good trade-offs to say there's some benefits and we want your business to be here. But if you're going to be here, we'd like it to look like this, and this is the way we can manage the traffic, manage the size of the facility, and manage what it looks like.
Sure. So it sounds like you've taken quite a few steps here to try to make Portsmouth more business-friendly moving forward.
I think that was the real driver in the EDC creating the position.
Yeah.
And they had seen that the percentage of the tax base in the town relating to business had drastically dropped percentage-wise.
Right.
We really didn't lose any sizable industry or anything. It's just that the residence base
residential base went way up.
grew so rapidly in the 80s and 90s, and the business development wasn't that great. So we haven't lost business, but just the percentage has shrunk.
And essentially, the residential taxes, the overall revenues to the town are much less because of schools and other things that are required as opposed to businesses.
Absolutely, it was part, as again, relating back to the justification that the EDC had for trying to create this position and emphasize business in town, is that the tax dollars that the town receives from a business or any commercial entity is of much greater value to the town. It's a very positive revenue stream instead of, as you said, the residences too often are a drain on the town services.
You mentioned that one of the reasons to contact you is that you also have access to other agencies upstate in Providence. How do you relate to the Rhode Island Economic Development Corporation?
We've got a very strong relationship with them. On a once-a-month basis, I attend an enterprise zone council at the Rhode Island Economic Development Corporation headquarters. And a couple of the key players that we interact with them are the people that the EDC staff has assigned to, like, the defense industry and the marine industry, and also the people that are in contact with the Secretary of State's office for people that are looking to get through some of the onerous regulations that they might encounter in trying to set up a business.
Okay. So you can act as kind of an advocate for the
Portsmouth.
Absolutely.
As I said earlier, if we don't have the answer, at least I think we have the resources to know the people to contact and put them in touch with the right people. Okay.
In a related note, we recently rejoined the Newport County Chamber of Commerce after an absence of a couple of years. Why do you think that's important?
I think it's important for some very good reasons, that we have a great connection. As you say, it's a county Chamber of Commerce. So their outlook isn't just Newport, and that, unfortunately sometimes that gets all the attention because of the great attraction that Newport is. But it's a county activity, and they're always looking to grow the business in the county. Our connections there, a great network with them. They're advocating for business all the time. They're advocating up at the State House for some of the things that our businesses.
So they're also advocating for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's something that I think we have to look at as almost like a regional outlook, because when we put something here, the whole island wins, and vice versa. And so I think those are the things. And they've been very helpful through the years in acquiring some grants for some special projects and some needs that are coming up.
We're almost out of time, but how can people contact you, Bill?
Well, my office is on the second floor at Town Hall. And one of the things we did with the help of our local Economic Development Committee is we created this little brochure that says "Welcome to Business" and a few guides in doing business in Portsmouth. And it has all the contact numbers, some of the basic information on what would be required on your type of business and where you're located. But it's something that's available in my office, in the planner's office, in the building department office. So that's a place to contact us and get started. We're out of time, Bill. Thanks very much for joining us. My pleasure. And thank you all for joining us today. See you next time on Portsmouth This Week. Doug Smith back here again. I just want to mention to everybody to keep their eye on the local media, the Portsmouth Patch, and other media sources for the 375th celebration, which is the plans for this are still ongoing. All of you are needed to make this thing a success. We need volunteers. We need people to do events. So please come out and join us. And I think you'll all have fun. This is a great community thing. Take care.